You may be seated. I want you to know that at no point in the history of gaming has any man ever won a game by swearing and throwing his controller against the wall. He wins by making his opponent swear and throw his controller against the wall. Now, you may have heard that retro gamers don't like to compete. Well, I think that's a load of horse dung. We love to compete. We thrive for the din of battle. And I assure you that we will be giving you the most technologically advanced weaponry in order to fight with. This ain't no 8-bit tank. You need 16 bits to pilot this sucker, because Genesis does what Nintendo don't. Welcome to Mike's Gaming Gala. I'm Mike, and this week we're talking about Cannon Fire Chaos for the Sega Genesis, or Mega Drive for those elsewhere in the world, by Good Deal Games Homebrew Heaven. Cannon Fire Chaos comes in cardboard packaging that's much more commonly associated with the 32X, but some Genesis games came like this, so it passes the authenticity test. It of course includes a professionally printed manual and the game cartridge. This is actually a 3-in-1 game, sporting 3 smaller games on one cart, so let's take a look. Starting up your console, you get the prerequisite splash screens, and then you're presented with a menu where you can select from the 3 games: Armored Warfare, Broadside Buccaneers, and the Kursk Offensive. Let's start with Armored Warfare. When you select this one, we get a title menu with Blaster Master music. Hey, I'm not complaining. Blaster Master has a great soundtrack. Just seems like an odd choice. Here, you can choose to play a 1 or 2 player game and set your options. The options you can set are the difficulty, game mode, grass tile, and setting the sound on or off. We'll set it to arcade mode with grass tiles on and give her a go. You play as a tank battling an onslaught of enemy tanks in defense of your headquarters. On the right of your screen, you'll see, from top to bottom, the number of tanks you have left to destroy to clear the stage, your lives, and the level you're on. The gameplay here is pretty simple, but fun. Maneuver yourself around a playfield that is full of destructible terrain and try to destroy all the enemy tanks while making sure that they don't kill you or what you're tasked with defending. Depending on the level, you may have to protect your headquarters as depicted by an eagle or defenseless infantry. Power-ups will appear pretty frequently and include a shield, reinforced protection of your HQ, extra lives, and a short period where your opponents are frozen, amongst others. There are also different types of tanks that you'll face. Most are just like you, but some are fast and others take multiple hits. So you'll have to keep on your toes to make sure you eliminate them. Otherwise, you'll end up like me and get surprised. Playing in classic mode, you'll see a much simpler layout of the playfield, which has its own charm. The goals and gameplay are identical to arcade mode though. As you can see from the footage here, turning the grass tiles off merely replaces the background grass with black. In a 2-player game, you each get a tank and are on the same team. While recording, I didn't have anyone around to join me, but it's the exact same game, just with 2 players. That's the same in all 3 of these games. To get back to the game selection screen, you just have to press the reset button. It would have been nice to have an in-game option for this, but it's no big deal. And since there was no mention of this in the manual, I figured I'd mention it here. Broadside Buccaneers takes a break from the tank stuff. Now, instead, you're a wooden ship in the age of sail. The goal of the game is the same as in Armored Warfare. Destroy all the enemy ships while preserving your own, as well as any forts or ships you're tasked with protecting. There are a few key differences here though to make it feel more unique. For starters, you now shoot broadsides and not straight ahead. Use the A button to shoot to port, and B or C to shoot starboard. There are also new obstacles present. There are turrets on shore that fire at sea, and coral reefs that will sink your ship if you hit them. Thankfully, the reefs work both ways. Enemy ships will sink if they hit them as well, which is really good, because navigating them in some levels can be very difficult, and sometimes it's better to just goad the enemy through them to their doom. I find this one to be the most difficult of the 3 games. The navigation can be tricky, and keeping straight which side you need to fire on takes an extra level of concentration. For many though, I think this will be their favorite. It's easy to play, but tough to master. Returning to the game selection screen, we can select the 3rd game, Kursk Offensive. This one is basically a reskin of Armored Warfare, albeit with different level layouts. In this game, you play as a lone Soviet tank taking on entire German armored divisions. The gameplay here is identical, including the same types of tanks and power-ups. But for some reason, I found Kursk Offensive to be the easiest of the 3 games. Maybe it's the added motivation of taking out Nazism on the battlefield. And boy oh boy does this game hammer that home, with swastikas used as the icons representing the amount of tanks left. Nowadays, this is generally considered a no-no, and most games would likely use an Iron Cross as a replacement. But I respect the choice, and seeing as it represents the bad guys, I'm okay with it. Your mileage may vary. I'm happy to say that I beat this one to be rewarded with a nice image of a Soviet soldier hoisting the hammer and sickle over a battle-worn Berlin. And that's Cannon Fire Chaos for the Genesis. So what did I think? Well, okay, maybe I was a bit zealous in my intro when I said that Genesis does what Nintendo don't. But even as a Nintendo fan, it's such a great slogan. How could I resist? Fact is that the NES could do most of what's here. And with games 1 and 3 being identical in gameplay, calling this a 3-in-1 cartridge is a little bit of a stretch. Cannon Fire Chaos may not take full advantage of everything that the Genesis has to offer, but I'll be damned if it's not fun. And these days, my video gameplay sessions usually last an hour tops, so having games that you can just throw in and get right to some arcade gameplay are a go-to for me. If you're looking for something deep with story and complex controls, this isn't for you. But for some quick fun with 1 or 2 players, it definitely scratches that itch, and has replayability with its various difficulty levels and game variations. I had a lot of fun with it. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm really proud of that intro, so I really hope you liked that too. As always, I've got my contact information on the side here, so feel free to get in touch, and we'll see you next time on Mike's Gaming Gala.